everybody. My name is Volm, CEO and founder of RevOps Co-op. RevOps Co-op is a community of 18,000 plus revenue operators from all across the globe. We have a lot of different programming we do for our members. These digital events are one of them. We do in-person events. We have courses in education. We have a Slack group. We have a lot of different things available. I will drop some links to our membership options and some of those different programs into the chat after we get rolling here. But today we are here to talk about building AI agents for revenue operations, everything from data hygiene to deal insights. And I have a group or panel of AI experts, RevOps experts, go-to-market ops experts with me today. And so I'm going to actually hand it off to Chris Ferraro, who is on the product marketing team over at Celigo. And he is going to kind of get us rolling on telling us more about the topic and the theme for the day, and then diving into some of the content. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and take it away, my friend?
Yeah, thank you very much for that intro. Let me just go ahead and share my screen so you can all see it. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
We do.
Cool. So we're excited to talk to you today about RevOps automation, particularly how you can go about building agentic workflows and building AI agents within the Celigo platform to support different RevOps initiatives. We're going to start with an overview of AI and just general expectations. Now we're going to get more into the specific use cases that we've automated within our own organization. We're going to go into a demo that Sandeep on our team will lead, and then end out with some best practice and Q&A. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We will be sure to get to them later. Before we get going here, just a quick round of intros, and you don't have to introduce yourselves, but I'm Chris Ferraro. I'm on the product marketing team. We also are joined by Brian, who's a subject matter expert in go-to-market operations, Sandeep, who leads our AI strategy, and Josh, who works within our solutions consultant team, directly interacting with customers and prospects and introducing them to the Celigo platform. So a little bit about us. We're the #1 ranked iPaaS on G2. You might know us as an integration and automation platform. Our core philosophy is to make building integrations as easy as possible, but to also do so in a way where you have the right guardrails, security, and governance in place. So IT's mind can be at ease, while they can also federate access and building of integrations to different lines of business users who can automate the processes that they know best. So to power that, we have a low-code UX, we have pre-built connectors, and then we have a lot of interesting AI capabilities that can help offload some of the burden from your operations and IT teams. And over the last few years, we've really evolved from kind of just plumbing to more of a platform and total portfolio. So we have all the bells and whistles of an enterprise-grade platform, from HIPAA, GDPR, high uptimes, enterprise-grade data security. But we're also able to support whatever integration use case comes your way. So all of these integration patterns that you see on the top: app-to-app integration, a B2B manager, so you can exchange EDI information with trading partners, API management if you want to expose services or data to partners or customers. And then you'll see here that we're also able to support the building of AI agents. And that's really what we're going to get into today. So again, we support a broad range of different use cases, pretty much however you want to connect applications together, connect into trading partners or different customers and partners. But today we're going to be most focused on building AI agents, specifically as it pertains to RevOps. So AI, we know it's a huge buzzword these days, but at the end of the day, it's only going to become more and more important over the next few years. And I'm sure you've heard from your CEO, someone in your executive organization, what is our AI strategy? How do we go about building AI use cases? Our competitors are doing it. Start doing research, start trying to operationalize this. And 74% of CEOs are saying that AI will most impact their industry. So you're feeling that weight from the executive side. It's overflowing into you and your team. And the question that a lot of leaders are asking is what is our AI strategy? So Brian, how is this impacting you right now in your role?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's a good question. I feel like my answer is going to be an answer that everyone on this call would have. I mean, it's everywhere. It is an expectation, it is a fear, it is a exciting opportunity. I mean, it is everything. Everyone is doing it at different levels. So we got to do it too, right? Get on or get off. It is extremely present. And at first, it was very intimidating because really the easiest thing to do is just go turn on a tool and test it out and see how it works. But the reality is the idea of just turning on a tool, as we know, and as in this tool sprawl world that we live in, doesn't really solve the problem. The most interesting thing to me in this whole equation, just like any new tech, is the more articles you read. In fact, the Harvard Business Review just published an article this morning, check it out, about reasons that AI projects fail. And as you can see, 88 production pilots failed to reach production. The hype cycle is real. It is new. Everyone is testing. We're all trying to experiment what we can do. In our experience, we've been at AI for, in go-to-market for 4 years, in our product since 2019. So long time. And from our experience, the best thing to do is start. The three challenges that we recognized is number one is dreaming up the process and expected results that you want to get, which is always a challenge of operations. Number two is integrating any new information, because as you know, if you use a large language model, it has a lot of information, but sometimes that context window is too big. So how do you kind of refine the information to provide the best answer? Number three is basically put it into production, gaining user feedback. And we've had many experiences where we've rolled something out to our sales teams, which we thought was the cat's meow, and it didn't get any adoption. And we started asking questions of like, why? Why? And it's like the answer is, well, it's just not perfect. But so the idea is just keep testing and trying. I have the luxury of working at an integration automation platform in our position where I'm a target customer, which is pretty exciting. And I sat down with our CTO, Scott Henderson. This is 2 years ago when I joined the company. And we were brainstorming on some ideas on how we can use workflows and automation and AI in our go-to-market engine. And I pitched this wild idea that I thought was just sort of impossible in a way. And I said, can we automate that? And Sandeep was in the room as well. And they both looked at me and they said, yeah, do it yourself, write it down, and we'll automate it. And that was like a light bulb moment. And I think that to me is one takeaway I want everyone to hear is in ops, technology is evolving so quickly, and we have to learn a new skill, a new tech pretty regularly. And we are really at this point with AI and automation and advancing technology, we are only limited by our own creativity. So if you can dream it, likely you can build it. And one example, everybody is asked to go implement AI. The easiest thing to do is to go turn on your independent software vendor AI capability. You take your pick. Every one of us has it. There's billboards all over San Francisco about every tool that has now AI, which is great. And it's usually an awesome place to start. And it's a great way to learn. If all of you on this call have an opportunity to do so, I totally encourage you to test it and try it, turn it on. What you'll learn at times is that we end up running into limitations. Our businesses are different. And that is part of this discussion today. We wanted to share a story on what we learned as we turned on one specific AI tool in a platform, which ran a really great process. It captured information for us. It automated a step for our salespeople. What we learned is things change so quickly in our business, in our customers, that we needed more control over the data that we collect, which ultimately is why this sort of data layer and integrating AI into everything that we do rather than locked into a specific software is so critical. The idea of mixing AI with deterministic and non-deterministic elements enabled us to really be more precise. And we'll talk a bit more later today in this conversation about the use case. With that in mind, Josh, you meet with customers and prospects all the time. What are you hearing from the customers and prospects on their journey with AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brian. So really, when talking to customers and prospects, I've really heard that their management, their leadership team is testing them to adopt it. One example that I heard recently was a company who wanted to go quote unquote all in on AI. So they purchased their top tier ChatGPT license to equip their employees with the tools they need to solve those problems. As they began to roll out the evolution of that and evaluated how it was going, they didn't really see the ROI that they were hoping for. So the main reason for that is that ChatGPT didn't have the context that it was needed because it really wasn't integrated with any other business systems. So they needed a way to have everything come together. So as Brian just mentioned, mixing both AI as well as those deterministic workflows, it can provide an outcome to allow all of their employees around their organization and your organization to solve the problems really specifically within their sphere, your sphere of influence. So, as Brian just kind of shared a second ago, how do you move from pilots into production? So, you start with getting those fundamentals right, and it's the same thing that IT has always been building. So, first off is connectivity. So, we want to make sure that the AI can reach all of the right data across your systems. Second is going to be that AI ready data. So ensuring the data is clean, current, reliable, really so that data can be trusted, and then also add that context. So grounding your AI in your business so it delivers precise, relevant outcomes. That's what it means to operationalize AI. So it's not just about another model or experiment, it's about making AI part of your business and how it runs every day. So this is exactly where IT leads, again, by putting the right integration platform in place to connect, clean, and contextualize data across the enterprise. So the difference between experimentation and impact is really the infrastructure. So the sooner you fix that, the sooner the AI can start delivering. So once those fundamentals are in place, then that's when AI can actually start creating business value. Even when companies understand the importance of clean data, connectivity, and context, they still struggle to really be able to bring it all together. The reality is that most organizations are operating across dozens, sometimes hundreds of applications, and the data sources just don't talk to each other. The fragmentation is what really limits AI's potential. Analysts are even starting to call this out. Gartner predicts that by 2028, 70% of organizations building multi-LLM applications and AI agents will rely on integration platforms to orchestrate their data. So that's because AI can't perform without the connected foundation. So the real challenge isn't just building the next model or buying another AI tool. It's connecting AI to the systems, data, and workflows that make your business run. So without that, even the most AI is really working in a vacuum. So this is where integration plays a really critical role. It provides the foundation for AI to operate securely, reliably, and at scale. When integration and AI work together, the impact compounds. So AI becomes smarter and more actionable because it can access real-time, trusted business data. Integration also becomes more intelligent. So as AI helps accelerate design, they flag issues early and optimize workflows continuously. So that's how enterprises move from experiments to outcome, really by uniting AI with integration. And so that's exactly what Celigo can help organizations with. We can help with AI and integration. They reinforce each other to really make your operations more connected, more efficient, and ultimately more intelligent. So how do we start building on this foundation? Here's what it looks like when you integrate AI as well as your business application. So you start, of course, by building and connecting all of these systems that your business runs on. So from CRM and ERP to e-commerce support, analytics, really giving AI the full picture because AI really is only as good as the data it can reach, as we mentioned earlier. So then let's clean, enrich, and structure the data. So keeping workflows reliable, standardizing those formats, and then making sure everything is AI ready. And then finally, we can put the AI to work. Once your data and systems are connected, AI can start driving measurable results. For example, automatically enriching CRM records, resolving tickets faster, surfacing customer insights, improving sales processes, and even optimizing pricing and policy compliance. We'll go into these specific examples in a second about how this can be solved specifically with Celigo's platform in just a few minutes. So this is what we mean by operationalizing AI. So taking it out of isolated pilots and embedding it directly into systems that run your business. So Chris, I want to bring it back to you for a second. What are some of the tangible results that customers have gotten from using Celigo to solve their AI strategy?
Yeah, thank you for that, Josh. So we use AI for our internal workflows. So we're not just preaching it, we're doing it ourselves, as you'll find out later down the line with the demo that we go into. Here are just a few examples. For onboarding, customers use our knowledge bot, which is a chat interface that automatically references our documentation and our knowledge sources. So that's enabled them to ramp up 30% faster. Then we're able to support our customers easier, integrating with our ticketing system and quickly coming to a solution meet the deadlines quicker and improve the resolution of tickets by 10%. And then there's also the customer 360. So a lot of our customer data was pretty spread out throughout our organization. We're able to have really contextual business meetings that lead to a 27% increase in upsell opportunities. So those are just a few ways that we've used Celigo combined with AI workflows internally. But we also want to hear from you. So I think we're going to go into a poll right here, and I'll pass it off to Brian since I know that this is right up his alley. But would love to hear from you. Where's your organization as it comes to adopting AI? Where are you in the maturation journey? Are you not sure where to start? Or have you fully embedded AI into your daily workflows? And should you be giving this webinar? Are you somewhere in between?
I want to know. So I just launched the poll for everybody, and we'll leave this open for like a minute or so. And Brian, I'll let you kind of speak to this a little bit, but I got to ask because I don't think we allow our panelists to answer this question. So Brian, what would your answer be on this? Where are you guys on adopting AI to improve these things at Celigo?
Yeah, we've embedded AI into daily workflows all over the place, which I feel very lucky to be in the position that we are. And it didn't happen overnight, and it's been a really exciting and fun journey. It's like when you climb a big mountain at 14er in Colorado, you got to take small steps and keep going. And that's what we did.
All right. So then I'm going to end this poll and then I'll share the results. Before I do, though, what's your guess on distribution of poll results? Where do you think majority of people are going to land?
Right in the middle.
Right in the, that's the easy answer, man. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, it's got to be. This audience.
I mean, that's why I was hoping we were going to have like some big hot take or something here. But yeah, it seems like folks are kind of in that middle, experimenting with AI for automation and insights.
Yeah, and it's this audience. You've got a really good advanced audience who's willing to be on the cutting edge. So, I'm not surprised. But it's also encouraging. It's not typical that you have this type of distribution. Traditionally, when we work through a poll similar to this with different audiences, it's usually they don't know where to start or they're exploring what's possible. Typically, that starts with turning the AI functionality on in your chosen tool for whatever, conversational intelligence or forecasting, which is a good thing to do. I totally recommend doing that to get going. For us, we wanted to kind of take you through even more depth into an example. And again, we just so happen to use Celigo because we work at Celigo. You can apply this type of concept to any workflow at your company using an integration automation AI platform connected. So I just want to caveat that. I mean, obviously, we believe Celigo is the most powerful advance, but with that in mind, there's a couple key concepts that you need to go into these processes with. And to frame the conversation for us, we knew we needed to gather a lot more intelligence from our customers, our prospects in the sales campaign. And that we have for forecast accuracy listed here, but there's a plethora of other reasons why. Forecast accuracy, more consistency in execution, improved customer experience, faster adoption times, all these things. More information provides a more orchestrated and coordinated approach with our teams, meaning we can serve our customers more efficiently. When we looked at this problem, and it all started with the age-old tale of an ops person, this month we need to capture this data and we need to change this field to Salesforce to be a required field, and we need to change this field in Salesforce to be a required field next month because the data, we're continuing to evolve, which is a good thing about a company. You continue to adapt and evolve and learn. But we took a step back and said, there's got to be a better way, and we know that there's a better way. So this better way was using a lot more automation. But before we got to this step, we looked at it kind of from a basic framework that we can apply all across the board. And whether it's these use cases we're going to talk you through today, or really any other agentic or process flow within your organization. The first thing to do is just kind of goes unsaid is write it down. Write down your process. I think, when you go across the industry, all the best operations team have a lot of documentation that arms their processes. And that's not just good for institutional knowledge and enabling your salespeople, but that type of documentation can arm your own large language model, your own internal knowledge base, which is another use case when we talk about embedding things. A lot of our documentation is embedded it into our internal Slack agents, which sales teams can go query. Tell me more about this customer. How many customers have these types of integrations? A variety of questions, but it all starts with documentation. Okay, so the small framework that we looked at is, and this again is applied to these two use cases that we have. Number one is define your signal. And your signal could be something such as a website visitor. Your signal could be a deal slipped, a deal with a close date in the past. A signal could be the customer or prospect says this word. And it could be a very specific word related to your business. Whatever that signal is, you found your signal. Okay, nail that down. Number two is add context. What else needs to be paired with that signal to take the next step? And it might be the company, the account name, it might be the person, the persona, it might be the stage of the deal that they're in, whatever that context is. Add your context. So now you've got your signal, you've added your context, and then you define your action. So what's going to happen? Do I want to Slack somebody? Do I want to create a task in Salesforce? Do I want to just alert my manager about it? Whatever the action is, that would be the third step. So again, define your signal, add your context, and define the action. And that's really the framework we used as we moved through all of these use cases that we've built at Celigo, and specifically the couple of ones we'll talk you through today. So Josh, we tested a lot and we've gone back and forth, and Sandeep has been like, the knight in shining armor on our team, helping us kind of like forge these new paths and test and try. But one thing we learned, humans in the loop are good and sometimes bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll kind of walk through two different examples today of something with human in the loop and then solving something very, very similar without humans in the loop. So here's just an example of how we did get started. Sandeep is actually going to walk through this example with you in a few minutes. The issue we're trying to solve here is that our sales reps are spending so much time doing manual entry of data into Salesforce. Even then, the data is incomplete and inconsistent. And so this hurts with reporting and slows down the selling. So we needed to find a way to help make that a little bit better. So with this AI data augmentation agent, every customer call is analyzed automatically. So the agent will pull key details from the Gong call transcript, which is how we internally are recording our calls. And then it looks at information such as applications mentioned, deal types, and the intent. And what that does, it's going to send a message via Slack to allow humans in the loop for that validation. So with AI, it's really important to feel comfortable with the output, and adding that additional manual step really help with that validation. So once the human validates the outputs of the agent, it will update the Salesforce account and opportunity fields. So this will lead to sales reps spending less time typing, more time selling. Leadership also gets cleaner and more consistent CRM data that helps drive forecasts and manage the business. So this is something that we had done internally, as Brian just mentioned. So I'll explain in a second why I just said we did it internally rather than we do it internally. They are validating that output that the agent does provide. So the goal of this integration really is to speed up the process, reduce that manual data entry, and then make sure the data is more accurate. So at the beginning, we want to make sure that the data is accurate. So that is, of course, the whole goal of the automation. So once we have a good enough sample size of seeing consistent results, we can really move to a state that removes a human from the loop altogether.
Because
So
humans are inconsistent, right, Josh?
yes, absolutely. Fat fingering, and you don't know what the applications are that they're talking about. So humans can definitely be inconsistent. So now, Chris, if we go to a slide talking about the human outside the loop, here's an example of really that same flow. So looking at the same pieces of information, but we did remove the human from the loop. This is internally how we're using it today. So this flow is triggered at the completion of a customer call, and it goes through and classifies the deal type like we talked about before. So the intent as well as the applications that are mentioned. Again, this is giving leadership team the ability and the information that they need. So as you can see here, this is our CRO and our CEO who are specifically asking for these things. They're tasking Brian and Sandeep's team with these. So this is just, of course, just an example of how you can use AI in a number of different ways to even solve the same problem. You can start by double checking the output of the agent by adding a human in the loop and then removing them once you have the increased confidence. So the reason behind this is as we're working through this, we were able to update our prompts. With that human in the loop, we saw that we weren't getting exactly the results that we were looking for. So we were able to work with the prompts that we were doing to be able to ChatGPT in our example to really be able to trust the output. So once we stopped having as many of our sales reps changing or updating the data based on the applications that were mentioned on the call, we were able to remove that human out of the loop. To dive into that a little bit more specifically, I'd like to turn it over to Sandeep to show what it looks like within our platform, Integrator.io.
Okay. So as Brian mentioned, we are an integration platform that can connect to anything and do data integration between APIs and all on-prem systems and all that. So we as a company, we use our own product to run our business. We have 500 plus workflows that power our business using our product. This thing that we are going to demo today will be a simple use case where a sales rep from Celigo is meeting with a customer and there's a conversation going on between them. And right after the conversation, the sales reps, before this use case, they were supposed to enter the data manually into CRM for record purpose. But we had seen a lot of issues where the data was not coming in timely or not correct, etc. So what we have done is we brought in AI into the picture. So the moment a Gong conversation happens, a workflow within IO gets kicked in that will read the conversations, give it to the AI, and then it will try to bring the insights and send it to Slack for the rep to confirm. So this is the first flow that we have where we have a Gong export, which is running on a periodic basis. So this runs every 5 minutes and then it polls all the conversations that happened from the past 5 minutes and periodically gets the call information. So next we have another bubble here, which will get the transcripts of the corresponding calls. So whatever calls were pulled from the first bubble, we have a lookup to get the transcripts. And once we have the transcripts, this is where the magic happens. We have an AI bubble here and we pass the transcript along with a set of context and bunch of rules of do's and do nots. And this bubble will give us the output of the insight. And then we notify the sales rep. Let me just run this flow and then I'll walk you through what's happening within the AI. So I just ran the flow now. And here, if you go into the prompt for the OpenAI bubble here, so we can define custom prompts here. So we have, you can see here, we have given the context as to what the AI has to do in this. And then we have specific instructions as to what it is supposed to do and what it is not supposed to do, etc. So these rules are configurable based on your use case using the product. And these are the things that we iterated upon from the initial go live to the current state. So these document that you're seeing is a matured one, evolved one basically from the inception. In this use case, basically what we are trying to do is from the sales rep conversation with the customer, we are trying to assess the potential Celigo's customer's technology landscape. So basically whatever applications that the customer is speaking with the sales rep, we are trying to extract those insights and then store it in Salesforce CRM. So that's what is happening here. But the same principle can be applied to any other insight, not only the application. It could be around marketing insights, or it could be customer pain point, product issues, customer frustration. So whatever insight you want, so we can apply the same principle to get that insight there. So now I ran this flow for some demo customer for a Gong thing. If I go into my Slack, so I have a notification from Celigo AI that came in at 10:33 a.m. PST while we are talking this. And this gives us some basic information. So it says opportunity Gong call analysis. And then it is giving the details of what is the Gong call that happened, what is the opportunity, what is the account that's linked to this. And then here it's already showing whatever endpoints are already captured. So as I mentioned, in this specific use case, we are trying to capture company's technology stack. And if I go to CRM, so this is the corresponding Salesforce account. And within the account, they already have HubSpot and Shopify as listed endpoints from the previous conversation. So we already know this information. And then here, if you see, this is where the core is coming. So if you see the options, right? AA assist here in the new call, it could determine, okay, customer is talking that they have Salesforce, NetSuite, and OpenAI within their technology stack. So this information is given to sales rep now. And this happens within few minutes, within 5 minutes of the call happening, sales rep gets this blurb. And now the sales rep can decide, okay, if this information Salesforce, NetSuite, OpenAI is correct as per his conversation, he can just click submit. Or else, like, let's say he can just say, okay, apart from these three applications, I've also heard about some application called Magento. So he can just edit the information here and then he can click submit here. So the moment he clicks submit here, what happens is we have another flow that's listening to the sales rep feedback here. So as we see, this webhook flow is listening to the Slack input from sales rep and then is updating the Salesforce record for the information. So it's running now. It takes to complete.
Sandeep, while we wait for that to complete, one question from Martin in the audience is around the polling. Can you let us know if Celigo handles that polling or if the user sets that up or how that works?
Yeah, so this is complete now. So if you go to our CRM and then refresh this account, we should see HubSpot's Shopify were already present. Now the sales rep said I've already seen Salesforce, NetSuite, OpenAI, Magento as the new applications. So with one click, now the information from Gong went to Salesforce, and then from Slack it came to Salesforce in real time. So this is a demo flow, but in our production, we have very complicated setup around accounts, opportunities, where each account has different multiple opportunities and each opportunity has different Gong calls. So our production flows have pretty much complicated and evolved, but yeah, the same principle is used there. So going back to the question, yes, so user has a capability on all the batch flows to configure the cadence. So using our product, we can set up workflows which are real time. So whatever we have seen, this Slack to Salesforce is real time. The moment I click the submit button there's a webhook listening for that event and it's processing in real time. Whereas the original previous flow that we have seen is a batch flow. And if you go to the flow schedule here, we can add a schedule and say, okay, what time zone you want to run this in and what is the frequency, if you want to run weekly, daily, every few hours, or you can use a general cron expression to say every 5 minutes. So yeah, that's configurable per workflow or flow by the user.
And then one more question from Mitch. Actually, his first question, I just saw you dropped another one, but first question was around, he was asking specifically about this, like the native Gong versus Salesforce integration versus using an iPaaS like this. And I think maybe more broadly, can you talk about how should operators be thinking about leveraging native integrations between platforms versus running everything through maybe one centralized place like this? What's the value in each, and what would be some reasons for doing something through an iPaaS like a Celigo versus leveraging native integrations where available?
Yeah, it's a great question. I can take it. I'll take the first crack at it. From my point of view, we did use the native Gong application. You know, there's a framework in there to capture Bant and Spiced and Medpick as an example, which is great. And actually it does a very fine job and sometimes better in some test cases. There are other scenarios where the question that you're asking is a little more complicated, and that may be complications based on the scope of the question, the access to other information that isn't captured in Gong. Ultimately, there are scenarios to use Gong, but the reason we chose to use an iPaaS in these scenarios is, number one, we wanted to bring in other pieces of information to provide the most accurate information. We also wanted to update a custom object. In Salesforce, we built a custom build solution for capturing some of this data, and that was purposed for other reasons. We needed to update this custom object, which you couldn't do with the native Gong integration. And the third is we wanted to capture all this in the data layer. And subsequently, all these transcripts are dumped into Snowflake as a starting point, and then we're asking questions of it. So just this specific flow is just one step in the process. There's many other flows, and we're not hitting API calls for each one of those questions that we've hoped to Gong. So a few different reasons.
And then if you use an iPaaS like Celigo to integrate it, you have more control when integrating. Like if you're using a native integration between Gong and Salesforce, you have limited control. You have some settings to say, okay, I want to sync accounts or objects or this so-and-so record types. But beyond that, like if there are issues happening, it's very difficult because we use native integration between them, but we have no control. And whenever there are issues, like we'll have to reach out to them. Whereas when you use IO, you have complete control. Like if something is going wrong, you can see, let's say this example, right? Out of 2 errors happened in this flow. So you have complete control. You can view, retry, do a lot of stuff. There's a lot more flexibility and control on the integration than through any native integration between the applications.
Yeah. The one thing I just want to be clear, the iPaaS question, there's many out there. There are some leaders and some not. And I think the key point for all of us, and one thing I encourage all of you to do, and something I learned just by default and by the fact that I work at Celigo, is I never really engaged with an iPaaS prior to joining Celigo, but I learned how valuable a tool it is for a RevOps resource and team to execute it in a way that the frameworks of the world don't provide. And so I think one of my calls to action is, if you haven't already started to use an iPaaS, there will be a day that you will be using one. So you might as well make it soon, because there are so many use cases across the RevOps space that can be automated and simplified using an iPaaS. So I totally encourage you to start kicking the tires.
I've been in those scenarios before, Brian, where you start using a new piece of technology or product. Maybe you start with one specific use case or problem you're looking to solve. And then as you start to encounter future problems and you realize the value that something like that can bring, you're like, oh yeah, I can now start to solve that with this, right? And so it does unlock just a whole lot of things. It can be a little bit daunting at first because the universe of problems that you can solve can be very, very high, but you don't need to solve all those at once. Pick one and start there. I did have, and Sandeep, I'll let you finish any parts of this walkthrough. And I don't know if this would be a question for you or maybe if it's for Josh. But I was just like, because I think like Mitch mentioned this in his comment about liking the human in the loop for like the one use case that you mentioned, and then the other one you don't have the human in the loop. I was just wondering, like, how should people maybe think about that? Like, where would it be best for humans to be in the loop, not be in the loop? Do you have any specific examples where you've actually started with maybe human in the loop and then you've gone to human not in the loop? Just any frameworks that you can provide for people there.
So yeah, in our experience, one use case, anything we start with human in the loop, any process we built in. So that starts by design with the human in the loop process. And once we get some confidence, as we see the user feedback and the more confidence we get on that, we gradually move it in autonomous or non-human in the loop workflows. So let's say the same example of this one, right? Initially, we had a lot of conversations with the sales team where the endpoints were not correct because the prompt has to be iterated, because a lot of times sales rep was talking some application. So the AA was bringing in the applications talked with the sales rep as well. So we didn't want to do that. A lot of times customer was saying they have a lot of applications, but they want to integrate only so and so. There were a lot of nuances that we wanted to capture that happened through human in the loop. And with that feedback getting into the AA prompt to us, over a period of time, we knew exactly what was to be captured from the conversation. And then we removed the human in the loop thing. Same pattern we applied for other use cases. If we see this, we have few other use cases around EDA insights, MedPick framework, and then getting the deal type assessment. So we have these three use cases that are running in the background. If you see, there's no human in the loop workflow there. So first point is like, it's a natural thing. Like anything starts with human in loop, and over a period of time we move it. There are few use cases we still keep human in the loop. Like let's say we have few other use cases around accounts payable, like let's say non-RevOps, but employee expense automation, right? So whenever an employee submits a bill for their expense, we have an AI process or an agent that reads the expenses and auto approves them without manager or accounting being in the loop. It reads through the policy documents and it'll auto approve. So in that scenario also, we did the same human in the loop and then eventually took off the guardrail. We still have few guardrails in place. Let's say if the amounts are bigger, right, we still have that human in the loop. We have a threshold amount. So until that threshold amount, it auto approves. But once it crosses the threshold amount, it keeps the human in the loop for approval. So it will go to someone to approve and then only it auto approves kind of thing. So these are the two practical scenarios where we have seen human in the loop.
And thanks, Sandeep. Caitlin, your question, how did you get the feedback? So there's a lot of different ways to do that. And we use Slack internally. You can use Slack, Teams, any other chat agent. You can use CRM. But in our case, we have a Slack channel, which is really the AI channel for our sellers. After their calls or after their action that they took, our process alerts the sellers through Slack, and there's different ways that they are fed into the loop. And it could be as simple as an action button in Slack where they just said, yep, agree, or draft me an email, or take this next action. Or it could be editing text in a text field and clicking save, and then that text, plain text, then is reported and logged back into custom objects as unique custom objects based on that text. And here's just one example, as you can see, how that would show up.
Let's say we have built this workflows within Slack. This one Ask Anything sales chatbot that we have. So here people can just come here and create an issue. If they have an issue, they come here. We have a Slack workflow that will publish the feedback into Asana.
And this is our sort of one-stop shop for sellers that ask anything, that we're capturing as much content and context into how we work to provide basically a portal, digital agent portal for sellers to ask any question about the market, the industry, the company, the process, how they're paid, and really trying to simplify their experience. Cool. All right. We want to shift back to the slides and we'll close it out, wrap it up with some questions.
That sounds good to me.
Thank you. I'll take this. So, this one specific example that we shared is just one. There are many more. And I hope that this example has given everyone sort of the art of the possible in a way, and thinking about your own business and how you can capture information, take action, log information, sort of adapt the way you think about your business by also allowing your sellers to continue to go through their process, to serve their customers, serve their partners, serve their prospects. And that to us was one of the biggest value adds. And I've always been in search of a way to capture the information that we need to measure sales, limit the amount of distractions and manual data entry that they need to enter, which ultimately saves them time and improves our data accuracy. And this, to me, was a really great example for us. In this small example, we increased our customer onboarding speed as we landed new prospects and transitioned them into active, healthy customers. We knew exactly the context about the customer. We knew the technologies they had. We understood what they were trying to achieve. We understood if they were trying to go really deep on a single use case or they wanted to use an iPaaS to span their whole organization across every team. So that changed how we looked at new customer acquisition and how we looked at onboarding to really enable our customers. We also, by way of that, because we made customers successful faster, we improved our retention rates. Customers recognized that not only did they believe our software was the best, but they also understood that we were there for them and we empathized with the situation that they were in and we helped them gain value quickly. So, I think you can kind of like translate a lot of the things that in operations, information, knowledge is so much power. And taking that knowledge to improve the experience for your customers can really yield big results.
Cool. And then just some pro tips and some things that we've learned. We went through a few of these just now in answering the questions. Make sure that your agents are purpose-built for context. I mean, in a lot of cases, that means that context resides in different systems. And so you need to connect into those systems to make sure that the data that the AI is acting on is right and contextually accurate to your organization. Every organization is going to be different, have a different tech stack, different data that resides at different places. So connectivity is critical that underpins any AI agent. Human in the loop governance, knowing the times to use human in the loop and not to. Ultimately, it comes down to have you done testing? So we start with human in the loop, as Sandeep mentioned. Once we begin to trust the outputs or understand how our prompt can account for issues in the model and make them correct, then we can start to improve our prompt and take humans out of the loop. But there could be some processes where we always want to keep some level of human interaction in the loop. So again, that's case by case basis, but there is a methodology to it. Boiling down complexity and data triangulation for accuracy. We want to think about how we can basically decompose our organization and have different agents do different tasks and ultimately simplify the inner workings of your organization. And then data triangulation. So again, things like Customer 360, where we're combining data from multiple sources, making sure that it's as accurate as possible and that it's cleansed. Hopefully you found this session valuable. And I know what you're thinking. How do I go about starting to build within the Celigo platform or starting to gain some more information? So there's a few ways. We do have some AI-based templates that you can access right from our demo or trial environment. You can request a trial on celigo.com and then install our template so you're not starting from scratch. This particular template is a customer support related AI use case, but I know we're working on more templates and we're publishing them on a monthly basis. And we showed an agent in the RevOps space. Our customers have built agents across virtually every line of business, from e-commerce, customer support, document and knowledge management. And that comes to the fact that we're able to connect into all of the underlying systems, whatever processes that they support. We are hosting our roadshow. Our next one is November 5th in Atlanta, which has a virtual option as well that is focused on AI. So you can go to Celigo.com/Celigo Connective Roadshow 2025. And I think the RevOps Co-ops folks will also be sending a link, but it's really an opportunity to experience the art of the possible with our platform for prospects and for customers. So a lot of you know us as an integration platform doing app to app integration. That is, but like I mentioned in the beginning, we support virtually every integration pattern. So whether it's API management, EDI, and then our focus area today where you're building AI agents. And I wanted to leave 5 or so minutes at the end for Q&A. So do we have any more questions in the chat that the team can help answer?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to add to what you mentioned, Chris. Folks that are out there, Brian and the rest of the crew are in and around the RevOps Co-op community. So whether it's our Slack group, I shared their LinkedIn profiles before, hit them up. They are a wealth of knowledge and resources and happy to share any and everything that they have available and that might be on your mind. I had one question. Brian, I'm going to ask you this question. If you had to pick one piece of technology that is not Celigo today, that if I removed it, it would be the most painful, miserable experience? Like, what would be one workflow, one thing that you're using technology for, or one tool, if you have a specific tool, not Celigo, that would hurt the most if it was taken away?
Yeah, can I pick a CRM? I mean, that's like
Yeah.
that's the middle ground answer, the easy answer, right? I mean, really, that's got to be the answer. It's the foundation, the backbone, the structure. Frankly, it's where undocumented processes live. So it's kind of an important part of what we do. I think the more compelling answer is our forecasting platform. And I think that drives the heartbeat of how we think, how we do, how we forecast not only pipeline, but bookings, and how we look at our customers, how we assess risk. So I think that's probably the real answer is our forecasting platform.
Yeah. And then we have a question from Caitlin, and I'll ask this, and whoever on the team would be the right one to answer this can, but she was asking about rate limiting from larger vendors and gave some examples, or folks that are just completely eliminating access to information or data they have, like Salesforce limiting access to Slack data, for example. So how has that been impacting your customers and maybe some of the use cases or things that people are or are not building within the Celigo platform?
So we haven't seen this specific use case of Slack data being rate limited. We have a comprehensive data strategy in place where we don't try to talk to applications to get the data. We use Snowflake as our data warehouse. We have around 100 plus SaaS applications that we use to run our business. We bring in the data from different systems on a cadence to warehouse, and then we do most of the processing from within the warehouse. So we don't hit the API rate limiting or data access issues in general. Yeah.
But in terms of how our customers are handling it, within our platform, we have error management that's built in. Brian mentioned earlier, we've been using AI since 2019. We use that to help power our error management. So we classify errors and we also go in and retry errors. So if we do run into a rate limit error, we will try and pass that data back through so you don't lose that data. Great question.
And Caitlin, it's very in tune to the world that we're in, that question. This is going to continue to be a problem. I mean, that every vendor wants to continue to control their data, their domain, their walled garden, so API, rate limits are going to be more and more prevalent. They're going to start charging likely, they do already. So back to the point, I think there's a really important undertone here of the data and the importance of having a really strong data foundation, a place for your data, the data orchestration layer to help you really make the most of what you've already captured rather than pinging repeated times to get similar information.
All right, everybody. Well, we are at time, so I want to say thank you to Chris, Sandeep, Brian, and Josh for dropping some knowledge on all things data and AI agents for RevOps today. To all of the attendees out there, thank you very much for joining as well. When you depart from the webinar today, you will be prompted with a quick 2-question survey. Please submit answers to those 2 questions. It'll take you a couple of seconds. We use AI and humans to evaluate all of the responses that we get to make our future events better. So again, to the attendees and our panelists, thank you all very, very much. I'll let you all run. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all at the next one. Take it easy, everybody.